Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Investor More, and we're outside a property I bought about 6 to 8 months ago, and this is one we thought we'd be able to convert to multifamily pretty easily, and that is not turning out to be the case. So I know a lot of people are saying we're having a housing shortage right now, and I agree with that, and a lot of towns say that they want to help alleviate that problem, but in reality that doesn't always seem to be the case. So we're going to talk about what process we've gone through here to try and convert this church area to multifamily. It already has 2 apartments, and what roadblocks we've run into, and if we're even going to try and continue with this project or not, because the costs are so crazy. It's just pretty ridiculous. So of course we love the likes, shares, comments, keep those coming. If you hit that little like button, it's pretty easy and helps us out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we have lots of updates on these properties and our flips and our rentals and commercial properties and the liquor store and mini mart and all that stuff too. So lots of good information here. So I bought this property. I've shown it before a number of times. It has 1 apartment on the main floor, 1 upstairs. Also came with a house next door, which is important to this video, and had a church area on this main floor here, which I've shown a bunch of times. Pretty big area. And our plan was to try and convert this church main floor area to 2 apartments. Help add housing, help the area out. And you can see here, it used to be multifamily at some point because it used to have 6 meters here for just this one building. And now it's just got 4, and it really only has 3 units in it now. So at one point it was multifamily. It is zoned downtown district, which allows for multifamily. No problem whatsoever there. It should be allowed, should have no problem. And we're showing you this alley and this parking because that's important too. So we thought it would be fairly easy to do. We thought we might not even have to do anything to convert it. And we started talking to the city and town, and they said, oh yeah. We want more housing, we need more housing, there's a shortage of it. We're much easier to work with in other towns. And that hasn't exactly been the case since we've gotten going on it. So I hired an architect. I tried to be proactive. Got my HVAC people over here, plumbers, electricians, to make sure everything I want to do wasn't too crazy. Got plans done, before we even went to the town, because I've done that before, and the town's always, not this town, but other towns have wanted us to have more stuff prepared beforehand. And it's just been really crazy. They've not been easy to work with, and their requirements are pretty ridiculous, if I have to say so myself. So yeah, we have this building here, and then that little house over there is part of it as well. It's all kind of one big lot, but not really. It's all sold together as one parcel, but there's actually 5 lots right here. We're in Milliken, Colorado, and they have real small lots. And so there's 2 lots for that house. There are separate, and 3 lots for this house. This is designated parking already. And then here's the building. We plan to add an entrance on the back for 1 apartment, already an entrance on the front for another apartment. Not doing any structural changes, adding some walls, not doing any major HVAC changes. Have to do some electrical, some plumbing, and we thought it would be fairly easy. So what did the town want us to do? Well, they wanted us to submit a site plan. In order to do that, I've been talking with the town for a long time, had my architect talking with the town, had a survey done on the property, which is not cheap because they said we need to have that done before we could move along. And then there's all kinds of drama between the architect, the survey, and the town, because my architect and survey person said they didn't see why all these things were needed, and the town said yes they are. And so eventually I had my pre-application meeting where they tell me exactly what to do, and that was last week. And basically they said I need to do almost $200,000 worth of work on the property before doing any construction to be able to make these 2 extra apartments. And we're going to talk about what that is, and then I'm pointing at this building here too, because I saw this last year for sale, and it sold after I saw it. 7,500 square foot old building. It's set up for apartments. They're going through the same process with the town, and this building's been vacant for years. And I'm kind of wondering if it's going to continue to be vacant for years because of the process they have to go through as well to try and get this done. So we'll go inside and show that and keep talking about what we have to do if we were to decide to move forward. All right, so here we are walking in the church area, and the seller had told me they'd gotten a variance for the church to be here, but the town said they didn't, that they don't allow variances. So I don't know if they just started a church and the town didn't do anything or how that all works, but I'm still trying to get some guidelines on what we can do here without making changes, and that's been very difficult as well. But a lot of times I buy properties without going through the whole process beforehand. And if you watch my channel, you know that most of the time it works out fine. Sometimes it doesn't. But even, when I do this, I always get good deals in property. So I have backup plans. I have other things I can do. But it's just frustrating when something that should help everybody out is a pretty simple process turns into something so extremely complicated as this. But before this was a church, we know at one point it's a senior center. And then probably before that, it was probably an apartment building. 100 years ago, I have pictures of it when it was a car dealer. So we have lots of history on the building and different things. But to make it multifamily again, or all multifamily, the town is requiring lots of different things. And basically, we're going to turn this space into 2 apartments with 2 bedrooms each. And to do that, first the town said we had to have enough water because we're adding units. Even though there's a church here, I kind of see that, but at the same time, I don't think 2 apartments use that much water. And the problem is this town uses CBT, which is the Thompson River water. I was trying to think what that stands for. I'm not even sure. But it's the Big Thompson River. Colorado Big Thompson, maybe that's what it stands for. It's actually the same river that runs by my river house, but we don't have any water rights up there. They're very expensive. A share of CBT right now is $65,000 for 1 share of water. And they are saying this building has a 3/4 inch water tap. And in order for us to have 4 units, it would have to be a 5/8 inch water tap. And to have a 5/8 inch water tap, we need to add 1 more share of water, or $65,000. The other issue is this property sends its water over to the house. So there's 1 water tap for both properties. They would require me to get another tap and share of water for the house next door. So that is another $65,000 plus the tap fees, the sewer fees, the hookup fees, which is probably another $15,000 to $20,000 in that range, $85,000 to hook up water to the house next door. So just for water alone, we're looking at $130,000 plus like $150,000. So that's a big obstacle right there. And that's not the only thing they'd be requiring. They also require, because we're in the downtown district, and any change of use, they said, requires us to do a landscaping plan, a site plan, and we'd have to be required to pave this entire alley I was showing you before. Not just to our building, the entire alley all the way through to the back. Now, they said that big apartment building I showed you earlier is working on their site plan too, and that they're going to pave that whole alley. We'll see, because who knows how much water they need for 7 or 8 units, which they'd probably have in there. We'll see if they actually do that. But that whole alley all the way through has to be paid for and paved by the property owner that does the site plan. There's another alley that runs back this way, and here, I'll get you a better view, sorry. We used any of that alley for our access, we would have to pave that alley all the way through as well. Not only that, all of our parking would have to be paved. We would have to set up enough parking for 3 2-bedrooms and a 1-bedroom. So I don't even know if there's enough parking there. We might have to make a bigger parking lot, which would take up almost the entire yard, paved as well. And we have to do a landscaping and drainage plan, because as I said, if you pave the yard, then it changes all the drainage. So you have to get an engineer out here to do an engineering plan and do that. So speaking of engineers, along with paving everything, doing all the water, because we're changing the use, we have to have engineers come in and design the heating system, design the electrical system, design the plumbing system. And they said civil engineers have to come in and sign off on, maybe the civil engineers were for the drainage plan and the landscaping plan. So you have to have engineers come in and sign off on everything. Even though we're not doing anything structural, we have licensed, contractors, subcontractors doing all this work, a licensed architect signing off on all the work. We still have to bring in engineers to stamp all the plans and approvals, which would probably add another $10,000 to everything on top of the architect's fees, on top of the survey fees, on top of the actual construction we're doing, on top of the paving fees, on top of the water fees. And on top of all that, it gets better. Because it's a 4-unit property, we have to sprinkler the whole building, which means putting an indoor fire sprinkler system in, which means they said we might be able to get away with a residential one, but they're not sure, which might save us some money and only be $10,000 instead of a commercial one, which needs its own water tap and system off the main lines. We don't have to pay for a share of water. That's nice, right? But we still have to put in a new tap, pay for that, pay for all that, put in the system, if they'd allow us to do a residential one, but they're not sure if they would allow that or not. Now, because our property is too close to the property lines and we're changing the use, we have to make sure these exterior walls are 2-hour rated firewalls, which there's brick in these walls. I don't know. I haven't looked into that yet to see exactly what you'd have to do to make them 2-hour rated firewalls, but I guess because they're so close to the property line, they're afraid that we're going to catch the alley on fire or possibly the sidewalk. I'm not sure on that, but that's one of the requirements. I'm trying to think besides all of those. Oh, we do have to have an architectural study done on all of the codes and an engineer study done on all of the city codes and stamped for approval to make sure that we do that right. We would have to get yes, of course, the building inspectors to look at everything, pull permits for everything. So basically, we're looking at close to $200,000 in costs before we even start construction and do any of that work. So this project is not looking as fun as it used to be. I paid $510,000 for this, I think. I think it was $510,000. If we did all that work, went through everything, made this a 4-unit property, had the house. Now the good thing is if we have a separate water tap for the house, we could separate it and sell it separately from this building. The big issue with that is I did a 1031 exchange to buy this property, so if I started splitting off properties and selling them separately, I'd have to pay a pretty big tax gain on that or do another 1031 exchange into a new property for the tax issues there. But everything together, the house next door is probably worth close to $300,000 on its own. This, as a 4-unit, all rented out, would probably be worth around $800,000. So it'd be worth $1.1 million or so if we did all of that and sold it all out. But the cost and time it would take is just astronomical. And I think I could sell it now for more than I paid for it and probably make just as much money without doing all of that work. So it's like, why in the world would I do that work now? So what are our current options right now? We already fixed the other apartments. I showed them in my last video. They're ready to rent. I literally took pictures today. Our laundry machines are set up. I just got their we have coin op laundry in here. I've got those set up. Although if we only have 2 apartments in the house and not, 4 in a house, that makes it different. But anyway, we have those set up. Maybe I just open this up as a laundry room to everybody. You never know. But your laundromat. Sure, the town would let me do that. Anyway, we're trying to figure out what we can do with this space. We know we can rent it to a church, right? We know that's allowed because the church was here before. But I asked the town last week, okay, all these costs are quite a bit. I'm looking at other options. What else can we do here without going through a site plan? And she said she'd get back to me, and she still hasn't gotten back to me a week later. I asked again yesterday, still haven't heard back. And that's kind of how it's been this whole time, is just emailing, waiting for a response for weeks, emailing, waiting for a response for weeks, and then, finally we get some information, and it's just horrible information. So part of me wonders what would have happened had we just built the apartments and rented them and then seen if the town noticed or not. Not that that's the way you're supposed to do things, but even if they found out about it, are they going to come back and make me change everything and buy water taps and all that stuff? Or are they just going to be like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. You have to pass building codes now. So questions you ask yourself. But for right now, we're trying to figure out and wait to see what we can do with this space. If we can rent it to another church, if that's our only option, if it can be some kind of other, event center, some kind of commercial space, we'll see what we can do there and go from there. Because having all those costs to convert it honestly doesn't make sense. It's just not worth it. It takes away all the profit. Any incentive for us to do that is gone. So we'll just kind of keep it as a house and 3 units and 2 other units rented and use this space for something else, or sell it, I guess. And then I don't know if I want to pay taxes on that bill or just to another 1031 exchange into a different property. There's some options there too. So that's where we're at. A little frustrating. It was a pretty exciting property when I first bought it. It was pretty cool finding these hardwood floors. Pretty cool learning the history about the car dealership and different stuff at the building, and talking to the city. Thought it would be a pretty simple and easy process, and then just got worse and worse and worse and more complicated as things went along. So doesn't surprise me why that property over here has literally been vacant for possibly decades and just sitting there and doing nothing because of what they're requiring people to do to make them livable units again, while at the same time people are saying we need more housing, more units. Is not exactly like they're helping that situation any with what they require. And they say it's all in the name of safety. So all that water we have to buy and different paving of the alley and parking lot makes things safer, I guess. Okay. All right. So that's our current update. Love to hear your comments and thoughts on what's going on. Or people who are in other situations, if they've ran into different things and what they've done in their situations. Love to hear from you as well. Again, love the likes, love the comments, love the shares. Keep those coming. We'll have updates on this property as we move along. Hopefully we'll get these other units rented pretty easily. I think they will be. There's literally no other properties for rent in the entire town right now. None. So we have no competition. We're not going to be price gouging anybody. We still charge fair rent, but they should rent pretty quickly, and we'll see how that goes. All right, we'll be back with more videos coming up soon.